Hello everyone. Before we get started, make sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment saying where you're from and when you watched. That way, YouTube will continue to show you stories like this. Now, let's get started. Asterisk, I thought that, after all that had happened, burning the diary would be the end of the terrifying cycle in house number 44. But I was wrong. It had only just begun. The next morning, I woke up feeling extremely tired, as if I hadn't really rested all night. The sunlight was shining through the window. I reached out to pull the blanket up, and then I saw it. An old envelope was neatly placed on the pillow beside me. I sat up immediately, my heart pounding. The envelope had no sender, but the paper was yellowed and the edges were scorched as if it had just been pulled out of a fire. Below the corner of the letter was a faint red circle. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a folded piece of paper. The handwriting was in black ink, with sharp, even curves as if drawn with a knife. What made me freeze was that I recognized that handwriting. I had seen it before. In Thomas's diary, the first line of the letter read, "You can't escape without understanding." I continued reading, each line hitting my mind. Like thin blades, the replacement cannot choose his own role. No one can burn our memories. We are still here because we are youth. Last line of the letter made me put the paper down, not daring to read it again. Try to break what has been completed. Looked around the room. Everything seemed unchanged, but the feeling was completely different, as if I was no longer the owner of the house, but just a temporary resident in someone else's place. Tried to stay awake. Put the letter in the safe and checked the windows and doors. All were locked. No signs of being broken into. I live alone. No one has a key. No one can enter my house at night. Without leaving a trace, there is only one way to explain. The letter was not placed by a human. Flipped through each page of the diary I had taken in my phone. Comparing the handwriting, every curve, every way of writing the letters matched down. To the smallest detail, there was no doubt that Thomas wrote it, and if so, that meant meaning he was still here that night. I didn't sleep. I sat in the living room with the tape recorder on and the camera facing the bed. Each tick of the clock became longer and slower, as if time was being stretched around. To 15 in the morning, the bedside lamp flickered slightly. I opened the camera to review the recording and saw, in the frame at the edge of the bed, a blurry figure appeared for a few seconds, and then disappeared. When I slowed it down, I clearly saw a hand placing the letter down and then gently pulling it back without making a sound. I couldn't keep my composure anymore. I shouted to Thomas, "What do you want?" But there was no answer, just a small hiss coming from the tape recorder, like a distant whisper echoing off the walls. We weren't done. I didn't know who they were. I didn't know why. Thomas had dragged me into this loop, but I knew if I didn't find the key, I would lose my mind. Or worse, become the next part of the ritual. I started tracing the history of the house through the owners, and I discovered a strange thing. Every person who lives here has at some point received an anonymous letter with no sender, and all have the same handwriting. I'm not the first to receive a letter, and I'm sure I won't be the last. Stay tuned for the next episode to find out what happens when I find out the secret of the only woman who ever survived moving into house number 44 and went missing just a week later.